Word. Congratulations to Sheila and Miss Valdez for their winning. I know we had a lot of great stories and nominations, and it was great to hear all the work being done all over the U.S. We have really great members, and I feel very blessed to be a part of your community. I am certified in a lot of different things. Suicide prevention and awareness hits home for me, and you'll learn why. Most who know me or are close to me, they understand why that's important. Um, and it's great to be with you guys. September is Suicide Prevention Month. So for a lot of people, this is the month that they put in the work a little harder than maybe every other day of the month. For some of us, suicide prevention and awareness is every day of our life. So I'm thankful you guys have picked your lunch period to be here and talk to me and listen to what I have to say. Because the key is we don't want to lose any more of our people in our communities, our family, our friends, our patients, especially. But I loved this quote by Winston Churchill: "Never, never, never give up." If people who were thinking of suicide had that thought in their head, my thought was maybe they would be here. I can't say that. I don't know that for certain, but that quote meant a lot to me. So I am a community health worker. I live in rural Indiana, work and, serve the people that I live near. And I am a QPR licensed instructor, so I can go out and do QPR trainings. I'm also trained in mental health first aid for youth and adults, as well as a assist intervention. I'm trained in assist, which is an interventionist for suicide prevention. So we'll go to the next slide. So some of the topics, I mean, suicide is it's a very hard topic to talk about. So, you want to make sure your microphones are off. We don't want to pick up any back feed. Please put your name and your organization in the chat. So Rebecca has that for your CE, your certificates later. And some of the conversation may be really hard to talk about. And if it is, please feel free to mute yourself, go off camera, or you can leave the meeting. I do understand that. And if you do feel you need someone, you can, message myself or Rebecca and say, just need a minute or have someone with you. I'd appreciate that. So we'll go to the next slide. So what we're going to learn today is what is suicide, why it's important to discuss suicide, mental health disorders, what resources and trainings we have available, not just as CHWs, but, as individuals that we can use when to assist others, and why maintaining our own self-care is vital in some of this work. So we'll go to the next slide. And we'll skip that one. That one's about me. We've already talked about me. So why suicide prevention and awareness? Well, for myself, on July 11th of 2019, and I thought I wouldn't cry, but I will. Um, excuse me, my life forever changed. I lost my best friend, my brother, my protector to suicide. He had struggled with ADHD, ADD, and adult bipolar disorder. He was going to therapy. He'd been doing well, and he was on medication. And I'm sorry for being emotional. So part of that in my community is very rural, and you don't discuss it, you don't talk about it. The only thing that people want to know is why it happened. Well, why would he do that? He looked like he had a great life. He had everything: wife, kids, a family, a good job. Well, we ourselves did not know. And that was something that we had to navigate as a family. My mom is a registered nurse, had been for 40 years of her career. She had to navigate why her son would do that. Why, as a healthcare worker, she didn't see it. My stepdad is a veteran of the Vietnam War. How did he not see it? So for us, it was a battle of where we go and what we do. How do we get through those days? And no one reached out and said, "Here's some resources. Here's the understanding that when people have mental health, there's nothing you can do to stop them from taking their life." So I made it my mission that my brother's legacy would not be why he died. It was for who he was. He did struggle with mental health disorders. And I think a lot of us as Americans, we have, we may have depression, we may anxiety. And sadly, when someone in our family takes their life or our friend, we become a survivor of a suicide loss. So, my goal is figure out how to help it, make it stop. Never let another person or another family feel the way my family feels. So that's what I've done. And it took a long time. It took a couple years to navigate through that grief, that loss, that hurt, that pain, that anger, because you feel a lot of emotions, and we know that from grief. It can be one day you're fine and one day you're crying. Um, but that is why I do what I do. So we'll go to the next slide. So, what is suicide and is it preventable? Well, we'll go to the next slide and we'll find out. Suicide is defined as death caused by injury, injuring oneself with the intent to die. A suicide attempt is when someone harms themselves with an intent to end their life, but they do not die as a result of their actions. So I felt like that was a great definition by the CDC, because sometimes people don't always look at that. They think when they've attempted, it's still considered suicide. It can be looked in two different ways. And suicide is 100% preventable. It is the only death that we can help stop. We can change the path of what can happen if someone wants to get help. And the next slide. So suicide is the 11th cause of death in the U.S. An individual that's suffering with depression, go back, is 20 times more likely to die by suicide than someone without the disorder. So the numbers are kind of they're always lagged. And right now for 2021 was the numbers that came up. Over 48,000 people died by suicide in 2021. And there's one death every 11 minutes is someone that dies by suicide. And many adults, they think about suicide or they attempt. That can be, a high number. 12.3 million seriously thought about suicide, and 3.5 million made a plan to die by suicide. 1.7 million have attempted. And when I think it was last year when they changed the 800 number, the 888 number to 988 for the suicide crisis lifeline, and made it easier so people can text, they can call, they can go to the online, the 988lifeline.org and chat with someone. If someone is feeling those feelings or they've set that plan in motion and they've disclosed that to you, or you have a feeling, asking them, are you wanting to die by suicide? You're going to want to talk to them and help get them a safety plan to where, you can get them in a better place. And there's others, another handout I wanted to send to Rebecca, and she can send it to you, that I really liked. It was a 2-pager on preventing suicide. And it talked about, things that you can do or ways to help prevent it. People, we don't understand when they get into that headspace. And that was something that I had to fight as a sister. Why would the person who tells me everything not tell me he was going to do this? And it, took a lot of therapy, a lot of understanding, suicide and why, he set that goal in his mind. So I'll make sure you guys get that. But a lot of it is hard, and it's not an easy thing to live. So the next slide. Why should we discuss it? So we have a very special place in, I think, the healthcare system as community health workers. We work within the mental health spectrum, in a lot of things, helping people understand why they have addiction, or why they, don't take their medications, or if they are depressed, or if they are struggling with anxiety. We have the ability to sit down with them and have those discussions about mental health disorders, and build those trust barriers, those parts of trust with them, so they know that they're in a safe place, and that they have people who care and love them. So suicide doesn't just impact the person who takes their life. It impacts everyone. It impacts their friends, their family, their communities. 1 in 4 people experience a mental health condition and they don't go on to die by suicide. They continue to either struggle because they don't go for help, or they get the help that they need to continue on. And on average, we have 132 people who die by suicide every day. And for every suicide, there's 25 others who attempt. So getting our patients, our family, our friends, our coworkers, that person who you may see on the side of the road that you think is struggling with addiction, but they're battling whether they walk out into the highway and take their life, if that's where we have to help and talk to them. And the way we talk to them can be very important. So, we want to have some do's and don'ts in talking to them. One thing that I learned going through our grief was everyone said committed. Oh, he committed suicide. Well, when you listen to that, and the more I heard it, the more angry it made me. It made me feel like he'd committed a crime. He'd taken the ultimate sin in life and did that, and that's really not okay. I mean, he died. My brother died by suicide. I've had patients who have ended their life by suicide. So not saying to someone committed suicide, be mindful in our words, or failed or successfully attempted. Those are not things to say. You should say died by suicide. They ended their life. They killed themselves. Suicide attempt or death by suicide. Having those words can change the way we either make a survivor feel, or we make someone who's thinking with suicidal ideations feel, because they're going to know that we're being mindful in the things we're saying to them, and that it's a safe place for them to come to. So we'll go to the next slide. When to assist? Well, we want to assist before it becomes a crisis situation. I have a typo there. I'm sorry about that. And always trust your gut. I think that we learn as community health workers when something doesn't quite feel right, or it doesn't quite look right, especially if we work with someone consistently. They're in once a week or once a month or every 2 weeks. We get to know them. We get to know how they are. And the one thing we want to make sure is that we never minimize their feelings. Trying to convince them that life is worth living doesn't always work. We want to try to avoid telling them those types of things. We want to be there and listen, and avoid giving them advice on fixing it, because they're not going to think about how to fix a solution, because they're not understanding what's going on. So staying with them, helping them secure or remove the lethal means, and escorting them to mental health services, or if it's a very dangerous situation or it's out of control, contacting 911, but letting them know just that I'm here for you. Not, well, you should do this, or I'm, well, if you come down, I'll make it better. We'll make it better. We'll get it. That's not, maybe just say, can I sit with you? Will you talk to me about it? I'm here to listen. I'm here for you. Those are the things that they want to hear. And of course, when we go to reach out, we want to talk to them privately. Doing it in front of a whole room or a big crowd is not going to make it better. It's going to make them feel embarrassed. It's going to make them think that, we're trying to, or it's like a show to them. Listen to their story, really listen. We have with our ears and you watch with our eyes, and make sure that we don't speak too much, that we're there and we're the ears that they're talking to, and the person they can trust. Express concern and caring. Hey, I see that it seems like something's going on, and I really want to let you know I'm here for you, and I hope that you feel like you can talk to me, or know that you can always talk to me. And the hardest part I think I've ever had to do, and that's been since losing my brother, is sit down with somebody and ask them, are you thinking of suicide? Because those words don't just come out easily. But when you go around it and say, are you thinking of hurting yourself? Are you thinking of, that's not always going to get the answer we need, because they might give us a different answer that we feel like is not going to fix the problem, or they're going to lie to us. And I've had a few of those where, they don't want to admit that there's a problem, because that means they have to work on it, or they may have to admit that something's going on when they themselves don't even understand. And encourage them to seek mental health. Give them a phone number. If you know of a good mental health provider, or if you work for a mental health facility, say, hey, I have this, I have this doctor or this therapist, and I'm sure they'd be happy to talk with you, and I'm happy to go with you to get that appointment started. And we'll go to the next slide. So mental health issues affect everyone, and it can happen to anyone. COVID has definitely, I think, shown us how the world can change. And, prevention is the key. And I think the more that we talk about these things, mental health disorders, or, that there are resources for those who struggle with mental health disorders, um, breaking that stigma is the important part. And the more that we raise awareness, the more that others can see that this isn't a bad thing to be. It's not, you're not destined to deal with being branded with a mental health condition. You can have a normal life. It's just like hypertension or diabetes. um, you can control what happens with these disorders, and you can, have a great life and do those things. You just have to make sure you keep the things in check and follow your plan of care. And some people who struggle with depression or bipolar or anxiety, or PTSD or substance abuse disorders, they are at a higher risk at times for suicide, because they may not have a great plan of care with their providers, where they're monitoring medications or therapy or a support system, or even have a safety plan and check for themselves. The next slide. So resources and training that are available. That was a big thing for me, because I had nothing in my community that was available besides mental health therapists. And they do their work. They start from the very beginning and they go, well, tell me about your childhood. Okay, well, my childhood, that's not what's hitting me right now. What's hitting me right now is my life forever changed, and I don't understand how this could happen, how I would miss this. And there are multiple training programs out there, and I've been fortunate to take all of them to learn more. And some are a little bit harder, and some, they really just hit the basic part of it, and they give you enough to try to help someone. So we'll go to the next slide and go over some of those. Of course, you have 988, which is a great resource. Mental health first aid, they have 3 programs. They do youth, adult, and I think it's children. That is a great program, because you see everything from, you could do all age groups separately, of course. But you do see how to help in that first aid situation, and getting them the programming, you may need to know later on. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, they are really great with their Talk Saves Lives program. It'll help you, just kind of get out there and do some prevention work, and let others know that, this is a topic that needs to be discussed. And this is, a good way to help people and kind of pick up on some of those signs that we need to see. QPR, it's the QPR Gatekeeper course. It's a good one with the question, persuade, and refer. It helps you, ask the questions, get them to, a plan of care, and work with them. And then the applied suicide intervention skills training, assist, that is the one I think everyone should have to take. EMS, healthcare, I think doctors need that class. Um, as a survivor, it was very hard, because you did a real reenactment of someone who was right there ready to take lives. And then we had to go with, sorry, everybody's um on how to, get them to help have that safety plan, and how to work within. It could be a situation with them standing on the bridge, and you're on the road trying to talk them down. For a survivor, it brought up a lot of emotions and a lot of feelings that otherwise, um I wouldn't I would not have felt. And I had done really well at keeping suppressed, I think. But I've sadly, we had Unity Conference for Notchwa in August, and I was back at work on that Monday, and I was in someone's home doing a home visit using Assist, because they were they were going to commit suicide or sorry, not commit, but they were going to attempt suicide, and we needed to get to an emergency situation and had to have law enforcement. And that's not the only time I've ever had to use that. So, these are really great programmings that can help you with training and getting the knowledge you need to do enough in your communities. And the hard part about the work that you do when it comes to suicide prevention, and I think just as a CHW in general, is maintaining our self-care. Our mental health is just as important, as our overall health or our physical health. So making sure we take time for us to decompress, to go through those situations. I know when I came back from Unity in the month of August, I had 6 people who I had to work with for suicidal ideations, and it it drained me. By the time September 1st came, I needed another vacation and I needed a quiet space for just myself because I wasn't understanding what was going on in my community, that this was happening. And it was taking a lot out of me, on top of being a mom and a wife, and and as a human, hearing other people's stories and seeing them struggle and getting them to care, to get help, and helping them understand that their life is just as important as anyone else's. It takes a lot out of us, and we don't think about that at that moment. In the moment, we're thinking we got to help them, we got to be there for them, we've got to get this person to resources, and it does take a lot. So make sure that you do things for yourself, such as the next slide. If you're eating or sleeping too little or too much, or if you have very low energy, if you're feeling unusually confused or on edge or scared, or if you're kind of having trouble doing your daily stuff, these are signs that we're wearing ourselves down, or maybe there's something more going on that we need to look at for ourselves. And then we'll go to the next slide. Oh, Rebecca, you're way behind me, dear. Keep going. One more. One more. There we go. So coping skills are a big one. I know when I've done I had the 2 home visits last month, and when the ambulance came, they took the patient, they took him to the ER, and then it was time for me to go back to the office. Taking a deep breath and relaxing was something I needed to do. I needed 5 minutes to go off by myself and just do my breathing exercise, because it was a lot. And being aware in the things that I'm doing, I think meditation can be a huge key and a huge help and part of what we're doing. And I use that not just for myself, but with my patients, especially if they struggle with anxiety. That's something that I see a lot. They don't know how to fix that. So, we work on breathing techniques, and I use those every day. So we'll go to the next slide. And if we see ourselves, I think, struggling, we don't want to hesitate to seek help as well. I mean, we've earned it just as much as anyone else, especially in those situations where we are working with people who, you know, are struggling with mental health, or if it's been a situation where you've done assist or you've had to do the QPR and you've helped someone get to care, you're going to have that drop moment when it's over. All the adrenaline comes down, and you're like, oh my gosh, you have to decompress, you have to take it in your mind. And I've had a couple times where I go in our mental health provider, her office, and I'm like, I can't believe today has happened. Like, it's been a nonstop. I just take those 5 minutes and I let her talk me through it, or have her help me understand. Because it is my job to help people, but I also have to remember to help myself at the same time, because if I can't help me, I can't help anyone else. And as a community health worker, I think we feel more for our patients sometimes than we feel for ourselves. We want to fix it. We want to help them. We want to build whatever, they're doing, and make their lives better. But we don't always feel like we don't see the impact it does on ourselves when we don't stop and take that break. And then the last slide, like I said, September is Suicide Prevention Month. I was really excited for the first time in our history of my little community. Our mayor actually signed a proclamation and made September Suicide Prevention Month in our town, and it was a historical moment. So it was a really great thing that happened. It was community awareness happened, and I partnered with our local schools Bring Change to Mind Club, and this high school has now expanded into their junior high. And for these kids to be present at this proclamation signing, this is something they may never see again. I've lived there my whole life, never ever thought it would happen. And in that process, found out the mayor was a suicide survivor at the same time. So for him to be doing this and giving me the opportunity to make it happen, um, he has no idea what that meant to myself as a survivor. But for him, I knew what it meant because we shared that same experience. So, there's little things you can do. I wore my little ribbon every day of the month this month, just so people know, because it asks a question: what's your ribbon? Why do you wear it? And I say I wear it for my brother because I do. And that's why I do the work I do. But the last slide that I did give to Rebecca, it does have resources for you. So the CDC website has some great ones. AFSP, or American Foundation of Suicide Prevention, they're amazing. Their programming constantly changes. They do stuff all over the US. You have local organizations or local coalitions that they build. So you can always partner with them. The 988 Lifeline is a great one. And of course, Assist. I mean, I love the Assist training. And then you have QPR and mental health first aid. These are really great trainings. You don't have to take all of them. Obviously, I was a little bit of an overachiever and decided I should, but Assist was my favorite, but it was my hardest. And some people just do QPR, and that's great. That works for them. And it does the same stuff. It's just not as in detail as Assist is. But being involved and being there and letting people know that you care, being kind. I mean, that's the biggest part of it. It doesn't. It's not about who's better and who's not, because I think that's the life we have to change. Um, Definitely, one thing is, if you know someone who's lost somebody, don't ask them what happened or why they did it. Um, because those were big things. Sadly, it took us three people to find a minister to even do my brother's funeral, because in our area, it's filled with a lot of prejudices. And their theory was, my brother, Richard's in hell, and we can't do a funeral for you and your family. When you know, religion should never have been brought into any of that. It should have been, how can we help your family? What do you need? How are you today? Just how we were as a human. Um, because in the end, it's our job to take care of them. And as a community health worker, that's the piece I'm consistently seeing is people they come to us for help, and they don't know how to sometimes ask for help, and they don't know if they can trust us. And they're struggling on not just maybe a mental health aspect, but they may not have housing, and they may not have their family support, and they maybe struggling with their sexuality, and they don't feel like they have a safe place to go. So to them, they're a burden in society, they think, and that it's what they're supposed to do, when that's not the case at all. I have the semicolon tattoo because the story's not over. And so, I have that every day. That's a part of me, and it always will be. But being kind is just the biggest part of, I think, what we need in this world, besides a lot more resources. And we all would say that as a community health worker, but I just make sure I'm at the outreach events. I have everything available, the resources in town. Um, some of your communities may have lost committees, and that's something we're working on here. We've had some pushback. No one wants to be a part of a lost committee, or they feel that one family who's lost somebody, that's their way that should be done. And that doesn't help the family when they're going forward. And that was a hard thing for us. We did not have any resources, and no one told us where to look and where to go. So I've taken that on myself. If there's a suicide in our community, I reach out to that family. I give them local mental health providers. If they're needing help with funeral arrangements, I reach out and give them a resource that helps with those. If they were a veteran, giving them veteran services that they may qualify for. um, trying to, get the family to mental health services as well, because they need those aftercare, the aftercare treatment just as much as, that person might have needed it. They need that in the days going forward. So, just giving them, if it's a small handout with phone numbers and the names of the organizations. And I always give them my number and say, this is how you can contact me day or night. Please do that. Because when we are a survivor to suicide, we're at an even higher rate uh, for the risk of suicide ourselves. And that's a really sad thing. And as we see, suicide is the only death that's preventable. So why would we not want to stop it? Why would we not want to help those that we care about? Um, and make their try to make their world a little bit better, just so we may save one more person. I think that's really all I have. I don't know if Rebecca had anything or if anyone has any questions. It's a hard topic to talk about, for sure. And I thank you guys for being a part of that. Not um it's not something anyone ever wants to really discuss.
Does anybody have any questions or want to request any type of information that you need? I will send out the flyers that I see you, Sheila. I will send out the flyers that Wendy said she has and the information and the links that she has shared for all of you. I will open the floor to questions, but I did want to announce one more time that our RCHWN nomination winners were Miss Sheila Rickman, who is waving her arms because she has a question, as well as Gloria Valdez. And I will send you guys out emails later today to get information so I can mail you your surprises. And even though you got to see a sneak peek of what's in that bag, there is a lot more that I've added. So I will open the floor for questions at this time.
First of all, Wendy, I'd like to tell you thank you. Sorry I was tardy. But what I heard, you did a wonderful job. That training that you recommend, but not always, because you said it was harder.
The assist training?
Yes, the
Yeah.
assist. Do you do that training?
I do not. I am just I that one I have been asked and I have battled that one because as a survivor, it's the hardest training I've ever had to do. And I barely got through it. Just
Okay.
because, I was standing there doing it. I am a QPR instructor, which that was the very first training I took.
Okay.
And I really did enjoy it. But one thing we had to do when we came out, because I'm also my county's ambassador for suicide prevention and awareness, was I had to be assist trained. So if the law enforcement or EMS called me, I was able to go and help. And so I had to battle through that one, but it is a great training. Like I said, it really digs in deep, and you do have those reenactments. And I think that was the hard part for me because they reenacted how my brother passed. And so
Right.
I wasn't physically there when that happened, but I had to relive what did happen.
Right.
And I had to be the person to save that person. And all I thought of was, well, I couldn't even fix him. How am I going to fix this? So it's a great training. And you can actually go online. I think Mental Health America does that training. I put the
Okay.
link in it so she sends you the slides. It should give you the links to it, or I can send you the link,
Okay.
Sheila. But it's a great training. And I've sadly, like I said, when I came back from Unity, I had 6 patients in the month of August that were struggling with suicidal ideations. I had to get to help. And so, like I did say, we are working on our loss committee, trying to get a loss committee going in my county. And I'm working with our local coroner, and he told me when I talked to him Saturday, we had 2 suicide deaths that week. We are up to a total of 10 in 2 months. That's a lot for us. Like we might have in the beginning of the year maybe had 4 from January to July. But from July to September, we've had 10. So yeah, the assist training is very good. And I am a QPR instructor. I can do those trainings. And I am trained in the assist or the Talk Saves Lives with AFSP, which is not actually it's not an interventioning tool. It just helps you talk about suicide prevention or, getting people help.
I'm taking the QPR tomorrow.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good starter one. Like I
And
said, I
so you had me
overachieved.
intrigued with the assist because you said it's very hard
It
because
is.
of having to do lived experiences.
Right.
So usually every month when we do these things, I always share something different about myself. So this is very difficult, but I'm going to do it. I am a survivor. I tried to commit suicide myself. So I belong here in Michigan. We have in Genesee County, we've started a suicide prevention coalition.
I love that.
And so we have our meeting tomorrow. So I thank you very much for doing this.
Well, thank you. And I can share with you, the year before my brother passed, I was there as well. So and I was stopped. A friend got me help, but I was struggling I had depression, anxiety, PTSD, and I was struggling with my health. Knew something was off, but as girls, doctors like to throw us and say we don't know what we're talking about. It's all in our head. And I had an autoimmune disorder that was attacking my endocrine system. So yeah, I get it, and I feel it, I live it. And then a year later, my brother, took his life, and I realized that God had a plan for me, and I sure didn't think it would be this, but it was. So thank you for sharing your story, Sheila, and you're a great blessing, I know, in my life, and we love you at RCHWN, and congratulations to you and Gloria, but you all are doing great work, and you have the impact to do so much more. Um, I think with life in general, with everybody. And it looks like, is it Gloria's hand is
Gloria.
raised? Sorry, I'm trying to see on this
Yep.
tiny little computer. Good, Gloria.
There you go. Sorry, I had to get my camera and mic unmuted and on. Gloria Curiapa Valdez is my name, actually. So I know
Thank
everyone
you for
always,
clarifying that.
I know
Thank you.
everyone
I
looks at my
tried
name
so
and it looks
hard to
scary.
not butcher your name.
So it's okay. It happens all the time. I was brought up that way in school too, where like just Gloria. But and it's okay. But I just wanted to say to Wendy, thank you very much for your presentation, because the way that you presented it gave me some input on how I should um, communicate with individuals that are contemplating, plus choice of words and its meanings. I think it's very valuable that you've given us that information to work with then too. So I want to just really say thank you very much for your presentation. It helped me out a lot on how I should communicate better.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I was the same way as you. I mean, my whole life I had used the word committed, or, you know, didn't, or thought I could just tell them what they needed to do and it would fix it.
Mhm.
Um, and sadly, I think when you become a survivor of that kind of loss, you learn from other survivors as well. And I'm a part of a survivor group that we talk about that. Hearing the word committed, and I said it in the thing, and I think it was me not thinking. All of a sudden it irritates me, it makes me angry, but I don't get angry at myself, I get angry at my brother. I go back to my grief, and it takes me back to that moment. So I think, and even with my patients, that's something I've seen, because I do see a lot of patients with mental health disorders, and if I tell them what to do, it just makes them mad. Then I don't care, I'm not listening to them, I'm not helping them. And it's over the last 3 years I've picked up on those little tools and tips, because I hadn't really thought about it before my brother passed. It's kind of like I do the thing with the Bible, you have the before and the after. It's before Richard died and after Richard died. So I go through that place in life and space that it's like, here I was before, and this is what I did, and now what I do. So, trying to be, and I try to be more mindful of things and the things I say, or even the things I do. And just, I always tried to be nice, I guess, but I'm trying to be nicer than I was before.
We can always work on ourselves too, and improving on how we can
Yeah.
communicate too. So yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Susan, did you have a question?
Hi there. So I don't really have a question. It was more of a statement, I guess. I have a family member that completed suicide, and I have a family member that attempted suicide. The one who attempted suicide was more because of medications. They were snowbirds and were seeking certain doctors up here, and then would go to Florida, would see certain doctors down there. They weren't communicating back and forth, and the medications altered the mind so bad that he attempted the suicide. Thankfully, he was found right away, but I just wanted to bring that point forward because one was could have been prevented other ways as well, I guess is what I'm trying to say, because of the medications and not having, so if you know somebody elderly that's going to different states, the med reconciliation is rather important to have
Right.
done. Mhm.
And that's something with a lot of my patients. So even being in Indiana, we still have some of the snowbirds that go back and forth. And if I know that there's someone like that, I try to make sure that they don't have too many doctors in places that they go, or that we have updated med lists, or that they keep those with them, because we notice in the healthcare system how providers do things differently. One might be, we're going to order this and give you this, and the other one might be like, no, 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 we're not going to do that at all. Just to help maintain them and help them understand. I know, like with my brother's instance, he had been on his medications for bipolar disorder for 2 years, and he was well maintained. And that was something we battled. What could it have been that? Did it change? There was a lot of questions to all of that. And no one really had an answer for us, and sadly, we're seeing the older generation take their life, more than the younger generation. And it's because we're missing that, they're struggling with anxiety and depression, and they were raised to not discuss it. That's a lot of what I see in some of the patients that I have in my office, that you don't talk about it. You just kind of just go on and you ignore it, and then they battle it alone. But thank you, Susan, for sharing that. And I'm very sorry that you've had to struggle. Your family's had to go through that loss as well. Is there anything else, Rebecca?